hit your notification so that you can stay connected to the sheriff's office, not only for this, but any other events or information that we're sending you in the community. So let's get started. Did you know the month of August is National Back to School Month? For those of us that have kids, Monday started K through 12. We sent our kids back to school. And then next week, I believe kindergarten and college at the University of Nevada is starting college. So we have kids from all across our community heading back to school. So it was time for this month, as your sheriff and as a parent, to talk about some safety tips. And you'll see I'm accompanied by several deputies I'm going to introduce here in just a minute. But before we get started, I would like you to watch this video about some safety around schools.
Hi, I'm Sheriff Darren Balaam. With the new school year right around the corner, I want to remind students and new and experienced drivers of some safety school tips. Pay attention to school zone signs and always obey the speed limits and traffic laws around schools and neighborhoods. Be aware of your surroundings and avoid any distractions while driving. Always stop for school buses and wait until students are safely on or off the bus and across the street on the sidewalk. And for students, when crossing, use a crosswalk. Look both ways and make sure you put your cell phone away and pay attention to your surroundings. On behalf of the members of the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, we want to wish all of our students a happy and safe school year.
All right, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. So, as I said, I have several deputies here, and they are part of our elementary school outreach deputy program, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, again, I think it's important as new drivers, as just drivers, and as parents with kids to provide our kids some safety tips, and for those new drivers to make them aware, because again, our kids are our most loved part of our families, and we want to make sure they get to and from school safely. And we want all drivers that are either going in and around neighborhoods or schools to know what to look for so that everybody's safe as our school year starts. So I want to introduce my deputies. From my right over here, Deputy Demetropoulos, aka Demo. I have Deputy Williams, I have Deputy Slamon, and Deputy Malcolm. And so welcome. Thank you guys for joining me today. And so first of all, Deputy Demo, because you've done the elementary school outreach program the longest, let's talk about safety tips and then we'll get into that program. But as parents and buses, what are some tips you can tell either parents and children or new drivers when they approach buses? What are some safety tips to keep everybody safe?
Well, a couple facts. There's 25 million students that ride a bus to school each year. And a school bus is one of the safest transportations for the students going to and from school. So when going to school and you're walking to the bus stop, make sure you use the crosswalk. Same thing, look left, look right, make sure there's no cars coming. For the people that are driving, make sure you are what's around you, all the kids in the morning and in the afternoon when they're getting home. For the students, try to get there 5 to 10 minutes early so you're not rushed. When you get there, stay at least 6 feet away from the curb for where the bus stops. One, the bus driver needs to be able to see you. There's a lot of spots that they wouldn't be able to because it is a big vehicle. When you're in the crosswalk, make sure the driver of that other vehicle sees you also. If you're stopped and you see the bus and it has the stop signs on it and the flashing lights, make sure to come to a complete stop and make sure you're at least 20 feet behind. And do not continue to drive or pass the bus while it is stopped. That is for the safety of the children. The children that are getting on and off the bus, make sure you're at least 10 feet past the bus so the bus driver can also see you to get to the other side. If you're driving, once again, if you don't stop with those flashing lights, we are out there, we are enforcing it. School zones, everywhere else, you will get a ticket. So be careful with that. It's the safety of the students and the safety of yourself as you're driving. So new or old, experienced, everybody has to obey that.
I know that's some of our biggest on accidents. Some of the tragedy we've seen over the years is, as we know, unfortunately, sometimes kids may be running late And so they're trying to run to the bus. And I know in my neighborhood, there's a couple bus stops that are right on the corner, and no fault of them, but there's some shrubbery. And so I've seen a couple times kids shooting across a crosswalk, trying to make that bus. So again, for drivers, right, you want to pay attention, know when you see that bus, even if the lights aren't out there, make sure you look and slow down. A few miles going slower around our neighborhoods where we know our kids are getting on and off buses is not going to prevent you from getting where you need to go early or afternoon or home, wherever you're going, that much delayed. So, I think that's important. Thank you for those tips. So let's talk about some other things, because some kids, and unfortunately last year we had some bus scheduling issues. So families had to look for other options, and one of those is bikes. And again, kids love their bikes, scooters, skateboards. So I throw it out to the group. What are some bicycle safety tips?
Yeah, so just make sure, like Sheriff Balaam said, no matter what you're riding, if it has wheels on it, make sure we are wearing that helmet. That helmet also needs to have that chin strap, and just make sure that's secured. Make sure that when you're traveling, especially on the bikes, that you're traveling in the direction of traffic. Stay away from students crossing the streets, just like cars. Make sure if you see a student darting across in front of you, utilize those brakes and make sure that you still need those training wheels, keep them on. There's no shame in that. Especially stay in the bike lane whenever possible as well. It is obviously the driver's responsibility to look out for you, but students, make sure that you also know and are aware of your surroundings. Make sure you keep your headphones out of your ears so you can hear cars coming. That's also a big issue we see is you're playing your music, getting ready for school, getting pumped, but just make sure that you're aware of what's coming your way. And obviously, do not be on your phones. Keep that for your recess time if you're allowed.
And I know, again, well, let's talk about a couple things, because you hit on an important topic I think we haven't touched on: electronics. When you're talking about either riding a bike, crossing the crosswalk, heading to the bus, or just going to school, parents, please talk to your kids about the cell phones. It's ingrained in our society now, unfortunately, with technology. But if you just sit and people watch at a corner, you'll see everybody grab their phones and they're paying attention to whatever's on their phone and not as they cross the street. So, for parents, please stress that on your kids. I think that's something you guys see a lot out on patrol or when you're at the schools helping out. Is parents or new drivers are trying to text. Again, don't do that. That's illegal. But for students, they're so either, again, listening to music, watching whatever they're watching on their phone, and they'll start right onto the street. So again, for drivers, new drivers, whoever, be aware. But for students, please put those away as you're walking. Let's talk about, so we've talked about the bus safety and bicycles and all the modes of transportation getting to and from. But what about, again, because we have this year, there's going to be a whole new set of new drivers. They get new cars. And there'll be parents and teachers coming and going at schools. What are some vehicle safety tips we can give as they park in those parking lots that we see a lot of?
So I think a big thing that, even as adults, we forget to do is when we park somewhere, we need to lock our vehicles. So I know I forget sometimes. If you leave anything valuable in your car and you don't lock it, there's a problem there. So you definitely need to make sure when you park anywhere, let your teens know as well if they're driving to school, lock your cars.
And I think especially for the new schools, because I know last year my daughter went to Sky Ranch, so they all got laptops. So for those, they don't drive in middle school. But for the high schools that have the laptops, right, that's the most, I think we see that all the time in our reports. Or if you're just walking through a parking lot, they'll leave those laptops on their seats. So please, for parents, again, if you have any electronics or something, tell your kids if they're going to leave them in their cars. Hopefully they're locking, but if not, even if they lock it, take those out and hide them. Don't leave them on the seat. Don't leave them in the back seat. Don't leave your cell phones. Anything that looks of value, somebody can break a window very quickly, even if the car's locked. So put it in your trunk or take it inside the school. And for parents, right? Because again, you guys see it all the time. Parents, they come, oh, I'm just running in real quick. Well, that running in real quick to go to the front office, go somewhere else, and next thing you know, you come out, the purse is gone, the wallet's gone, the glasses are gone. It takes somebody a split second to get in and out of a car. So for everybody, safety of your vehicle, locking your car, putting your valuables out of sight. So any other tips we're missing that you guys can think of real quick for drivers? Or
I think the biggest one, if we haven't touched on it, is pedestrian safety.
okay,
Right? Make sure you use marked crosswalk, right?
Excellent.
We have some new schools that are coming up, and they're all super labeled very well. But there's still some older schools in the area. You go down to Mount Rose Elementary. There's not the really areas that are marked. So make sure you use a marked crosswalk. Second thing too, don't horseplay in the road, right? I mean, we have playgrounds. Everyone wants to go play. I mean, for me, for doing outreach, I'm super excited to go, hang out at recess and go play. But let's cross the street first before we do that in a safety manner, right? And make sure just to look both ways, right? I mean, the biggest thing is just making sure just to use those crosswalks, use them marked, and just take your time and just be safe about it.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Excellent point. So you touched on it. So let's talk a little bit about our elementary school outreach deputy program. So we started that in 2009. Some may not know that. So for the last 12 years, we've had this year 6 deputies in several of our elementary schools throughout our community. And so they do 12 hours a month or 72 hours for the school year. And they go in the schools and they're the mentors. They walk around the school. I got to go with Deputy Demo one time, and we just walked into classrooms. I got to read a book to one of the classes, and they are a mentor or just creating that relationship with our community. And those schools are Sun Valley Elementary, Esther Bennett, Lois Allen, Virginia Palmer, and Incline. And so, first of all, Deputy Williams, I want to ask you, because this is your first year doing it, right? So what school are you assigned to, and why did you want to become an outreach deputy?
So Deputy Slayman and I are both involved with Virginia Palmer Elementary. It's for both of us, it's our first year being involved in the outreach program. I wanted to be involved in this program for pretty much the same reason I wanted to be in law enforcement to begin with. We love the community that we live in. We want to help as many people as we can. And for myself, I think that children are the most vulnerable population. And so if we want to create any sort of change in our community, why not start with a population that is so impressionable? So that's main reasons why I wanted to be in this program.
Awesome. And David Slayman, why for you? Slayman, sorry. Why'd you
Whatever
join?
works, as long as it's not salmon.
Yeah.
That's what gets me.
Oh,
So kind of the same thing as Deputy Williams was saying about the children being the most vulnerable population. I think it also just allows us to create that community impact. I know a lot of us don't get in here just because we want to wear this really heavy gear. I think we get into this job because we want to create those connections and we want to be able to establish those relationships with these students. On Monday, Deputy Williams and I had the privilege to go to the Virginia Palmer for their first day of school. And we were able to greet all the students and the parents and direct them to wherever their classroom was, and then actually go into each one of the classrooms. And I think that really was the moment where we were able to realize that we're definitely going to be able to have a positive impact in these students. And whether these students are privileged to have all the needs that they can afford to go to school, or they don't have those needs, and we can work with our sheriff's office to provide anything like resources, backpacks, clothing items, anything like that, to just make sure that they can be a normal kid and have a good experience like we both did in school.
awesome. Deputy Malcolm, how about you?
Same with me too. This is my rookie season doing as a deputy outreach at Lois Allen Elementary. The biggest reason for me is, our motto here at the Sheriff's Office is commitment community, and I want to make that commitment to our schools. I think, growing up in this area, some of the most influential people we have are our educators. I remember my kindergarten teacher, my first grade teacher, and how much of an impact they had on me. And to do that as a deputy sheriff to some of these kiddos that, can really need it, it's super rewarding. And, all of us here are really excited to get our first season going.
Well, I love it. And before I get to you, Deputy Demo, I believe we have a question.
Sheriff, we have a question from Crystal Rob Flip, who's watching on Facebook. Thank you very much for watching. The question is, when I am driving and need to make, say, a right-hand turn, and a person is crossing the crosswalk, don't you have to wait until the person is all the way on the other side, on the sidewalk, and out of the crosswalk before you make that right-hand turn?
Yes.
Good answer, sir.
You should wait till they get through the entire crosswalk. I know some people wait till they're on the other side of the directional travel. But the safest thing is let them get through the entire crosswalk. Again, doesn't happen all the time, but somebody could change their mind and turn around and walk across the crosswalk. So for all drivers out there, the safest thing to do is let the person, it takes a few seconds, let them get all the way through, because The other thing is even though they may be on the opposite side of traffic now, if the cars coming at you see that you're stopped, if they're not paying attention to who's in front of them, hopefully that catches their eye and will make them stop and recognize that, oh, there's somebody in the crosswalk. So always stop and let them get through. And so thank you for that question. I appreciate that because we see that all the time. And again, it's about that pedestrian safety. So Deputy Demo, how long have you been in our program, and what are some of your fondest memories?
Well, this is the start of my 8th year. I've done actually quite a bit of things. The reason I do it is the community trust, not just for the kids, it's also for the staff. I've made friends. Watching these kids grow up for the past 8 years, pretty cool. Some fun events that I've done is Camp Grizzly. Did it with the 6th graders, 3 different years. Overnight camping, that was fun. Playing soccer, that's always fun too. Going to the soccer games, seeing them grow. The fall festivals are always fun. All the kids came in, dressed up and happy to see you. And they always want to give you a high five, fist bump. Hand sanitizer is a good friend of mine. I get made fun of that by the teachers, but that's what I always do. The recess is always fun. The lunch line, sitting in the lunch line and talking to these kids every single day. It's fun. So you guys are going to enjoy this, take advantage of it, and you'll get good relationships, one with the staff and the kids.
Well, I remember it was probably 7 years ago when you first started. It was your 2nd year, I believe, when I went with you. And I remember asking you what was just at that question, your fondest memory. And it was that they invited you to that overnight camping. And so I could just tell when you were telling me that story, how proud you were that those kids wanted to invite you to go camping with them. And I thought that was awesome. And so I want to ask each of you, what is in your mind, what are you looking forward to either the most, or what do you want to accomplish in this coming school year in being that outreach deputy? I'll start over here. Deputy Malcolm.
I think the biggest thing for me to accomplish is just to build that relationship with our community. Being a newer deputy sheriff, we're in areas like the elementary schools where we patrol, right? So if they start seeing a familiar face, hey, there's Deputy Malcolm, hey, there's Deputy Williams, Deputy Demo, Sheriff Balaam, it just breaks down that, that first step, right? So that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to. And also just having fun, just going out, reading to kids, going out, playing recess, playing soccer, football, whatever game it's going to be. It's, we're all really excited to be a part of this. And for me, it's just being out in the community, just having fun.
I love it. Deputy Slayman.
Well, I did challenge a few students to some foot races.
Oh boy.
But I said I need a 5-second head start with this gear, so I don't know. So I've been stretching and warming up for that. But other than that, I think I'm really excited to just share my love for education. I think that for me, I went all the way through a 4-year university, and it got me to be the person I am today, to the career I'm in today. And I think just sharing the positive experiences that you can have in going to school. So I think sometimes kids are like, I don't really want to go to school. I don't like math. I don't like this. I don't like that. And just sharing how you may not like every subject, but if you stay in school and you learn and you have fun, you will find things that you love to do, and you'll get to make those experiences with your friends, and you'll get to overcome challenges and obstacles. It'll just make you so much better of a person, 1. And 2, you get to come out and have all these job opportunities, especially if you continue your education further. So I think just sharing my passion for that and helping the teachers along that line, because I think sometimes they're like, the teacher, of course, likes school. They teach for a living. So sharing that I also love school.
I love it. Deputy Williams.
So something that this program has made me think a lot about, I'm currently assigned to detention, and I can't tell you how many inmates I've had conversations with who have told me, if I had met a deputy, when I was a kid, or an officer like how you've been, it probably would have changed my course of my life. And so that is something that I've kept in the back of my mind, and making it the same experience for the kids that we are in contact with. So little bits of positive interactions here and there hopefully will maybe change the course of where they thought their life could go. So I'm just excited. I think Deputy Slayman and I were probably more excited on the first day of school than the kids were. We were really excited to be there. Things we're looking forward to throughout the school year. I know we're going to be involved with one of their career days, and just being there for recess, lunchtime, to read to them. Again, I think we're probably even more excited than the
That's
kids are.
terrific. I love it. Deputy Demo.
Well, like I said before, it's the community trust with them. You really get to teach the kids that we're regular people too outside this uniform, and that we have families, we do hobbies, we do all kinds of stuff. And the questions and answers, you guys are going to hear all kinds of stuff. So be ready for it. It's fun. But no, it's showing them that they can come up and talk to us. We're regular people. So we're not just there to take people to jail, write them tickets. We're there to help them. And by doing this, it does open it up for the communication.
And I think that's, I was going to ask you guys why these programs are important. I think you all hit on it, right? And it's that building that public trust and breaking down those barriers. So I loved your example, right? That familiar face, right? We always talk about that, as we're driving around, we're not there just to arrest or, police, but we're also there as their friend, as a helper, as a mentor. So one more question. And I'll start with you, Demo. What would you tell a child who was either fearful or afraid, and I'm sure you've ran into this in 8 years, of law enforcement? How do you start to build that trust and break that barrier down? What would you tell them?
Well, you sit there and kind of just talk to them. You don't, like the first day that I went there, I was looked at different. They're like, why is there a deputy in here? Now, they love it when I'm there. They come run up, they give you a hug. I would just tell them to talk to them and say, hey, I'm here to help you. And you don't need to be worried. And they want to know about all your equipment. And so you tell them the reason why you don't pull it out. It's for safety reasons. And read them a book, sit next to them, play a game, and you build that rapport. So, did I answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
What would you tell them, Deputy Williams?
So some of us here do have kids, and our children see us with our uniform, just in regular clothes, and typically they're not afraid of us with our uniform on. So I think for me, going to the schools, I want them to know that I'm the same person that I am with the uniform on as I am when I'm wearing regular clothes too. So I'm a mom. I have other hobbies, other things aside from just this job. So you don't have to be afraid to come up and talk to us. We truly are there to help.
Awesome. Deputy Slayman?
I think just like Deputy Demo touched on, just having that conversation, really just bridging that gap. I think that's what we all need to do no matter what job you're in. I look at a teacher and I'm like, why are you a teacher? That seems so hard. I think just getting down to that level with these students and just like you said, explaining the gear, explaining the day and the life of the job, because a lot of times I didn't even know what I was getting into when I went to the academy. And so it's fun to share those experiences with these students, especially as their brains are evolving into thinking, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I think being able to have those one-on-one conversations or maybe a group, just be able to see like this job isn't maybe as scary as it seems to some. And it also isn't as enlightened as it seems to some as well. So just kind of getting down on a nitty-gritty level.
Awesome. Deputy Malcolm?
I think for me, what I would tell a kid is, first recognizing that, everyone has different backgrounds and has different interactions with law enforcement, right? And it's okay for them to, at first, be scared. If you come in at 6'2", 220, full of gear and equipment, that's a tip. No, I can't even get on most roller coaster rides at Six Flags, But if you come in with that intimidation factor, people are going to be scared, and that's valid, right? So I think talking to them in just a normal voice, and then the biggest thing is listening to them, right? Listening to their life stories, whatever it is, just being that listening, that soundboard for them. That's what I think is going to help, our youth become less fearful of law enforcement.
I love it. Well, I want to tell you all, thank you for volunteering for this. I think that's an important thing. None of you were voluntold. You all volunteered. And so that speaks highly of your commitment to, making that impression and going out in our community and serving our community. So thank you on behalf of all of us here. And so for everybody out there, hopefully this provided all of you parents, drivers, kids going to school with some tips so that we can, as a whole community, enjoy our school year, enjoy our community, and make sure our precious commodities, our children, get to and from school safely. And for drivers, we can get to and from wherever we're going safely. And so, again, if you have any questions, you didn't want to ask them now, please send them in. Please hit your notification again to stay connected to the Sheriff's Office for our Did You Know series, or when we send out pertinent information about anything going on in our community. I want to thank you for joining us. And I want to say good luck to all the kids out there. Enjoy your school year. And for all the teachers, thank you for what you do. And thank you all for joining us, and have a great week.